Preseason finale. The third and final week of the National Football League preseason is now in the books. We look back on the weekend that was 2 games on Thursday, 3 more on Friday, 8 on Saturday, mixed in with your week 0 college football, and a triple header yesterday to round it all out. Now, we didn't see starters in all that many spots, but where we did, we react to live right here on this Monday morning on the early line on Sports Grid. So DRS, now that the dress rehearsals are done, before we get to the roster decisions that must be made this week in all 32 NFL training camps, let's look back first on the Sunday slate. We'll talk about the games that were not Sunday Night Football. The Broncos, led by Zach Wilson, he threw 2 touchdowns, complete a perfect and undefeated 3-0 preseason run. 38-12, the victory over the Cardinals. The Titans knock off the Saints yesterday, 30-27. Spencer Rattler looking pretty good for New Orleans throughout this preseason. Now let's go to Sunday Night Football. The Commanders at home in Landover pick up their first victory of preseason action. Great, 20-10, the victory over the Patriots. My main concern, though, DRS, is New England, a team that enters 2024 with the lowest win total in the National Football League. In all 3 preseason games, played all 4 of their quarterbacks, including week number 2 against the Eagles to open up week 2 action. They put Bailey Zappi back in to try to win a meaningless football game in the preseason, and they still go 1-2, putting up 17 points at the most, and that was week number 1. All 4 quarterbacks playing yesterday. Drake May threw a touchdown and looked pretty darn good. Jacoby Brissett got banged up on the opening offensive possession of the game. I am even more concerned about New England entering the regular season after the preseason than I was at any time during the offseason.
The thing that's crazy about it, too, is the way they're playing the quarterbacks. So typically it's going to be like, okay, we brought in the veteran Jacoby Brissett. We signed him to be our starter. We're going to draft a young quarterback. If the young quarterback does outplay him in camp, we'll probably start him. So if we just focus on that, Brissett getting banged up, I'm sure didn't help. But Drake May threw 20 times that game, more than any other quarterback on that New England roster. And quite frankly, a $126 touchdown pass rating of 99.2. You loved what you saw. But I don't know if the Bailey Zappi 0 for 1 was, oh no, if Brissett is hurt long-term, we're going to need Zappi, or the way they handled Zappi in the preseason, like he has a guaranteed spot on this roster, but you don't want to play him, and the quarterbacks ahead of him aren't very good. Like, I don't understand really what they're doing. Now, the one thing you do want to do is see what you have in Joe Milton, and you're finding out. 5 of 17, 78 yards, a 46 passer rating. It's a shame that for something that just doesn't click for this kid. Can you imagine if he was a pure pocket passer with that arm? Just if as a wide receiver myself, you run any route on the field 50 yards downfield and he could put it right on your hands, it would be crazy. But he obviously just can't do that. Now, he's still young technically. Maybe he learns his way around the NFL, but this is a disaster quarterback scenario because quite frankly, you argue, if you ask a Patriots fan today, Ben, who's your best quarterback? They probably just say, just put Zappi out there. At least the offense moves at this point. Or you're just going to roll with Drake May. We don't know. We've had this question for a while. We don't know what's going on with New England. The one thing we know is they stink.
Listen, Drake May was pretty good. He led a touchdown drive in his first drive out there, finished the final 4 drives after that of the first half. They missed a field goal right before the break. And again, you see the numbers on the 3rd overall pick, who a lot of people question, was he game ready to start off his NFL career? His own head coach in Gerard Mayo said, no, not really. Jacoby Brissett, the most pro-ready quarterback that we have entering training camp. I don't know if I would argue that statement at this point, but Drake May has looked pretty solid throughout preseason. 13 of 20, 126 yards yesterday, and a touchdown. Had a rushing score for New England week number 2. We'll get to Brissett in just a moment. I do want to comment on Joe Milton. During the broadcast, Chris Collinsworth was talking about a conversation he had with Milton, where Milton said he can throw the football 95 yards in hopes by the start of next year he can throw it the entire length of the field, 100 yards. It is perfectly Joe Milton to say that and then go out and be 5 of 17 for 78 passing yards. Now, Jacoby Brissett got the start for the Patriots, was injured on the 6th offensive play when he was sacked on his right throwing shoulder. Here was his head coach, Gerard Mayo, after the game. Quote, he would have been able to continue. He said he was good. The team will check on Brissett tomorrow, as he more than likely is the week 1 starter for the Pats.
That's just, again, it's wild to think. It's almost like now, like, why did you even get Jacoby Brissett? Like, you have really no talent on offense with a no-talent quarterback who's supposed to like, a game manager is supposed to have weapons. A game manager with no weapons? Get out of here, man. Woo.
It's not good in New England. More preseason reactions to start hour 2 next. Takeaways from the final weekend of preseason action, week number 3 around the National Football League. It's how we start hour number 2 on this Monday, live right here on the early line. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. 2 more hours to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. We've got some PGA Tour and golf recaps coming up in just a little bit as we enter the 3rd and final leg of the FedEx Cup postseason this week at the Tour Championship at East Lake in Atlanta. Women's Open Championship yesterday, and Lydia Ko continues her sensational summer. And how about the final Grand Slam of the year? Our producer extraordinaire and tennis aficionado, Joe Frieso, steps out from behind the scenes and in front of the camera to get you set for the U.S. Open in Queens that starts today. Donnie's got the hard-hitting questions that you need to know. We'll talk some National Football League futures later on in this second hour, now that the preseason is in the books as well.
And by the way, also, we're talking about some of these other, like, championships and millions of dollars up for grabs. If, again, I was commissioner of sports, nobody would be colliding with opening weekend of college football and professional football. If you are golf, end your season early in August. If you are tennis, end your season early in August. Get those last bit of dollars up here. Stop beating your head against the wall going up against the fall season here. I don't know why we do it, which, again, leads us to, hey, look at the FedEx Cup here. Who actually watched the FedEx Cup this weekend? And you only had a week 0 slate in football and just random Major League Baseball schedule on a Sunday. Tough times.
Football is king, regardless of when and where it is played, whether it is in the collegiate ranks or, of course, in the National Football League. And there probably was a focus for many around the NFL on Saturday in one of the 8 games early on between the Steelers and the Lions in Detroit. Not so much because of what the Lions would do or what the end result was, but what is Pittsburgh going to do at the quarterback spot? Mike Tomlin has been pretty steady in the fact that he believes it is going to be Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback in the Steel City. Russ got the start on Saturday against Detroit. 1 offensive possession led to a touchdown. He was 2 of 2 for 26 yards. Justin Fields, on the very next offensive possession for Pittsburgh, leads a touchdown drive. Got 2 more drives after that, 3 of 4 in total for 40 yards. And yes, leading a touchdown drive. Donnie, are you sold at the end of the preseason that Russell Wilson is the starter for the Steelers?
I'm not sold on it either way because I don't like the way they handled it. But also, Mike Tomlin in that post-game press conference sort of made me laugh. If I want to paraphrase, I think he said, like, that might have been the greatest drive I've ever seen by a professional quarterback, Russell Wilson's 2 for 2, which ended in a 31-yard run by Cordero Patterson. Boy, he's ready to be the starter of our football team. And Fields basically did the exact same thing. It looks way more athletic than Russell Wilson does. But we were the one, say it if you will here, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They told us early on, Justin Fields has absolutely no shot to be our starting quarterback in week number 1. And it looks like that's going to hold true at this point, just based on Tomlin's post-game presser. But said, boy, what a leader that was out there going up against fifth-string defense and leading us to a touchdown drive finally here. That was impressive.
The Lions barely played anybody. It's not Dan Campbell's cup of tea in the preseason, despite how competitive they are throughout the regular season. So I guess you're fired up by what you saw out of Russ, or maybe the Steelers' offense in total. They did lose the game to the Lions, I believe. Let me check that score just to make sure that they did lose. They did, right? 24-17, Detroit on top. Hendon Hooker back for Detroit this preseason. He was a day 2 pick last year for the Lions after a sensational 2022 at Tennessee before his season came up short with a torn ACL. He looked pretty good throughout the preseason, confirming that backup spot, I would believe, in the Motor City behind Jared Goff. Again, Russell Wilson, probably the starter. It's a reunion of sorts for Arthur Smith in Atlanta. The Falcons host the Steelers in 2 Sundays at home as a 3-point favorite. What's to make of Trey Lance? Is he the future in Dallas if they cannot sign Dak Prescott to that long-term extension? It's not like Lance is under contract entering next year either. and I don't think he's going to be. 5 interceptions on Saturday against the Chargers. He played all game, so some of the sums and the numbers, 323 passing yards, 49 attempts, 39 completions, 90 yards on the ground, and 2 touchdowns look okay, but 5 INTs for the Cowboys and Trey Lance against the Chargers this weekend.
Yeah, and if you were playing in a fantasy football league that didn't go negative when you throw interceptions, he was fantastic. 323 and a touchdown in the air, 11 carries, 90 on the ground and a touchdown. That's great, but this is exactly what you worry about Trey Lance. Understanding, he hasn't played a lot of football since being a professional, but that doesn't mean you get into a game, it's like, hey, we're going to let you throw 50 times. Just throw it all over the place, and it doesn't matter to what jersey, because that's what looked like was happening. All those times on the Kyle Shanahan, the fun I used to have when it used to be preseason camp or OTAs. You never even got the fake planted report out of San Francisco that goes, this kid looks amazing in practice, even when he's bad, when most teams will do that. You never heard anything, and I guess this is the reason why. He's just not a professional quarterback. All the talent in the world, and yes, maybe injuries did derail some things, but you should not be having your showcase game, I'm the backup quarterback, watch me be willy-nilly with the football and throw 5 interceptions. And we're not talking about, the steel curtain defense of the 70s from the Steelers. You're talking about no starters on the Chargers picking you off left and right.
And this was a Chargers team that got locked in an elevator for close to 2 hours over the weekend as well. Did you see Jim Harbaugh's reaction and his quote post-game to his team being locked in an elevator together, including quarterback Justin Herbert? Oh, Harbaugh is just the best, man. The way that he just speaks about the world in times when it revolves solely around football is hysterical. He was jealous of the 10 to 12 guys that got stuck in the elevator together, said it was a great bonding experience for the Bolts. They were in there, no AC, no airflow for up to 2 hours. Everybody came out. They were sweating, not Justin Herbert, which showed to his new head coach, Jim Harbaugh, that the leader of the Bolts is cool under pressure. I mean, it was one of the all-time football guy isms out of Jim Harbaugh in terms of the LA Chargers getting caught in an elevator for up to a couple hours.
Yeah, and also, what do you do in that elevator for 2 hours? Now, granted, everybody probably has their phone, so maybe you just whip out some games and have some fun and do that stuff. But after 10 minutes, don't you get extremely bored in there? Then it's 20, then it's 30, then it's an hour, then it's an hour and a half, and it's hot. That has got to be an awful scenario. And also, we're not talking about probably a service elevator that is absolutely massive, like they're setting up a concert. You're stuck in probably a regular elevator. Do you even get any room in there? And we're also not talking about a bunch of 5'5" dudes at 135 pounds. We're talking about NFL guys. Are you just a sardine in there for 2 hours?
I mean, Jim Harbaugh would have been in there, made them sit in a circle cross-legged like it's preschool, and would have been doing kumbayas with his team to get ready. Again, an all-time quote. Elsewhere around week number 3, we did see some starters in a couple of spots, including for Jacksonville against the Falcons on Friday. We told you about this on Friday. Line was a touchdown in favor of the Jags. Easy win, 31-zip. Trevor Lawrence looked great against Atlanta's backups. 8 of 10, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mac Jones slinging a touchdown. Michael Penix Jr., he looked like he was only on the sideline. For whatever reason, he has not played the last 2 weeks. See you in 2027, Michael Penix Jr. Brock Purdy, an interception in 2 consecutive games, week 2 and week 3. He played on Friday for San Francisco. Again, not the greatest outing. A tie, 24-24 between the Niners and the Raiders on Friday night.
Yeah, and also, it took a little bit of a beating there out of the pocket for Brock Purdy. I don't mind you playing your starters at this point, but if you're going to play them, hopefully they're absolutely tremendous when they're out there and not getting hit a lot. But, hey, that's something to be said. You're getting your guys ready for the regular season. As long as guys aren't getting injured, it's probably better for you to start the season that way. So there they go for the Niners.
We saw Geno Smith make his preseason debut, 4 for 5, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Baker Mayfield played on Friday. The Bucs were a 9.5-point favorite against the Dolphins. They won that football game and covered by 10. Bryce Young not bad as well over the weekend. The preseason in the National Football League is now done. This week around the NFL, training camp comes to a close. And with the end of camp, you make your roster decisions to decide that 53-man active roster. There might be some moves that happen this week that surprise, some releases around the NFL that could present opportunities elsewhere. But then once those decisions are made, Donnie, and the 53-man roster is fully decided, it is a focus only on the regular season in week number 1 game preparation. So as we continue that momentum into a regular season, we have some fun continuously with the Futures Fusion on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Either a combination of bets that kind of looks like a season-long parlay, or using some of those fusions to put together our own match bets for conversations here on the early line. Sounds like a pretty fun Monday to me.
Yeah, load up, get ready, because we're only about a week and a half out from the start of the NFL season, and there's going to be some interesting wagers that have to be talked about, even if they're hypothetical per se, and you don't want to wager on them. We're going to give you some anecdotes here to have some fun with.
And this might be our last day of football fusion, so we go out with a bang. Today, we are using fusions in comparing them against one another in these hypothetical match bets. The San Francisco 49ers, with a win total of 11.5, despite some shaky preseason play out of Brock Purdy, to win more games than the Rams and Seahawks combined. That's a 6-1 number by itself. Or the Cowboys win the NFC East, and the Eagles win less than 9 games. That would be 8 or fewer at plus 550. DRS, as you look at this theoretical match bet, which side would you wager on?
I think it's pretty easy here. So let's just take a look at both sides, right? The 49ers win more games than the Rams and the Seahawks combined, which you're saying horrendous football teams usually win 5 games in the NFL, which would mean that the Rams are horrendous, if you think that's the case. I necessarily don't think so. Or the Seahawks are horrendous, which again, if you think that's the case, I don't really think so. That's 10 wins here. So automatically the 49ers would have to win more games, which means 11 from those teams. Let's just say the Rams are average, 8 and 9. The Seahawks are right around average, 7 and 10 at that point, as you line them up. What do we have to win? 16, 17 games here? That's not happening here. So the plus 600 would be off the table. Now you say, is there something better there? Absolutely there is. The Cowboys to win the NFC and the Eagles to win less than 9 games. So it's plus 550. The difference in price point, it's only 50 cents at that point. Let's factor into this. If the Cowboys win the NFC East, they're probably going to win 10 plus games, which means a minimum of 10 and 7. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles winning less than 9 games, which is 8 and 9, coming off the season where they absolutely imploded down the stretch. Now, I'm an Eagles fan. Do I think it's necessarily going to happen? But what happens if Jalen Hurts doesn't play that well? What happens if Vic Fangio's defense is really bad this season? Again, we're not projecting it to be that way, but if you have a 6-1 price and a plus 550 price, it's very feasible to say the Cowboys will win the NFC East and the Eagles could finish with 8 wins. That's feasible to me. So I'd rather bet that plus 550 price there on the Cowboys and the Eagles bet than the 49ers combination with the Rams and the Seahawks.
Again, frankly, I'm surprised that 6-1 price is only 6-1 for that futures fusion between the 49ers and the Rams and Seahawks. That's one bet by itself. And then we compare it to the Cowboys winning the NFC East and the Eagles component as well. The Niners win total is 11.5. It is up there, second highest in the NFL, only behind the Chiefs, also at 11.5. But San Fran has the juice on the under, KC on the over. But the Rams have an 8.5 win total. The over has the juice. The Seahawks have a 7.5 win total. Year number 1 of the Mike Macdonald era up in the Northwest. The over has the juice. 9 wins at least expected for the Rams. 8 wins expected for the Seahawks. If that's going to be the case, San Francisco can't even better that, even if they went undefeated. So that's a very lofty expectation for San Francisco and terrible expectations for LA and Seattle. And again, it's a 6-1 price. The world that the Cowboys win the NFC East and the Eagles finish with less than 9 wins is not the craziest thing that has ever happened in an NFL season. And I can't believe it's only 50 cents less than that of the 49ers component of this futures fusion. I don't expect the Cowboys to win the NFC East. Not only the curse of winning the NFC East the year prior in that division, but the Eagles are just a better football team. 10.5 the win total for Philadelphia. How about Cooper DeJean? Little TFL over the weekend for the Birds. Preseason action, not just a safety.
He's ready. I'm telling you, he's ready. He looks the part right now. I just would like the one thing that would really set it off in Philadelphia, and I know it can't happen, but could Darius Slay give up the number 2 and just throw that over like Cooper DeJean as a single-digit player back there? I mean, that would really just set things off. You want to talk about a jersey that would be bought from everything? That would just be tremendous at that point. Yeah.
Can you imagine the Darties at Temple and around Philadelphia, not Villanova, that school's no fun, but elsewhere around in Philadelphia, the Cooper DeJean jerseys that are going to be making their way out there, especially if the number was 2. Wow, that would be something. Second Futures Fusion. The Giants and the Jets played each other in the preseason finale at MetLife. No Daniel Jones, no Drew Lock, only Tommy DeVito, no Aaron Rodgers for the New York Jets. The Jets picked up a victory over the G-Men. So we compare the two New York teams here once again. The Giants win at least 3 more games than the Jets at 12-1. Again, I can't believe that's just 12-1. The Bears and the Commanders combined for 25-plus wins. That's 50-1. I'm going to say neither, but if I had to pick one, I actually think it's the Bears and the Commanders.
Yeah, but it should be 120-1, not 12-1 here for the Giants to win 3 more games than the Jets. But I guess if you're breaking it down, like, yeah, okay, Saleh could get fired. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again week number 1. They trade everybody away by week number 4, and that's how you would get 3 more wins possibly than the Giants would get over the Jets. But I do. And granted, 50-1 on the other side. The Bears and the Commanders, 2 rookie quarterbacks out here averaging, let's just say, 12.5 wins per season this year would be quite frankly crazy. So, I mean, but again, if you're betting lottery tickets here, I'm going to take the 50-1 price here better than the Giants win. Because what does that theoretically mean? Like the Giants wind up with 12 wins on the season? That's not happening here. So I'd rather take the 50-1 price and at least feel like I have a lottery ticket chance at winning money at the end of the season.
I think the over for the Giants win total of 6.5 should be 12-1. The under has the juice right now. I don't think New York even gets to 7 wins. A little bit more Futures Fusion for the mind of Joe Frizo. All right, so the Futures Fusion selection on the FanDuel Sportsbook, we've pretty much used up everything here. So now we go to the mind, not of FanDuel, but Frizo, our tennis aficionado, who was here earlier in this second hour to preview the U.S. Open, the final Grand Slam of this year in tennis. And now a theoretical match bet that we are going to select, which is more likely as we get ready for 2024. What's more likely? Josh Allen never wins an MVP award, or Lamar Jackson never makes a Super Bowl. That's a tough one to decide, DRS. Which one are you going with?
Yeah, by the way, we've been doing this, though. I wish we would have had a hypothetical price point in there placed on it, or are we just imagining this is plus 100, minus 110 on each side of this? Because if you're looking at it overall, Lamar Jackson is an unbelievably talented quarterback. Josh Allen, an unbelievably talented quarterback. We're asking them on this question doing 2 separate things. You can have a wonderful regular season, which Lamar Jackson has had multiple times, and take down an MVP. Making a Super Bowl is a completely other story, which the Ravens should have made last year. It was all set up for them to win it. But again, questionable play calling, to say the least, wasn't able to overcome that horrendous AFC Championship game. So for my money, it actually would be Lamar Jackson never making a Super Bowl, because I'm just going off the data that I have. Wonderful regular season, questionable postseason. The one thing I know about Josh Allen, and this is always banking on you're not going to be injured and missing significant time. Josh Allen is awesome. He's going to put up great numbers throughout a regular season. They could win the AFC East, which could give him a bump. Now, also, flipping it back to Lamar Jackson, never making a Super Bowl. Do you know why? Patrick Mahomes is in his prime in the same conference here as he is. That is the ultimate roadblock year after year after year. And if you didn't beat Patrick Mahomes last year when you had him on the ropes in an AFC Championship game with a horrendous wide receiving core, I don't know if you can bounce it from now. So just for me, simplicity, Josh can have a great regular season, win that MVP. Lamar Jackson, to get to a Super Bowl, probably going to have to go through the Kansas City. And quite frankly, that game probably going to be an Arrowhead next time around as well.
You know, DRS, I think you're pretty spot on in terms of there was an odds component to this. Of course, Joe Frizo made it up. The Josh Allen side of this conversation would be the favored number. Maybe it's not minus 500 versus 7-1, and maybe it's not the plus money we just saw a couple of segments ago, but I still think it'd be minus 150 to plus 125. Why? Not because I believe Josh Allen is going to run away with an MVP award at some point in his NFL career, but what he is trying to accomplish is solely dictated on the individual. If Josh Allen is good, Buffalo is good. If Josh Allen throws for 4,200 yards and adds in like 10 rushing scores, that probably means Buffalo wins at least 10, 11, maybe 12 games. They could win the AFC East. The NFL MVP award is a regular season award, as we have seen with Lamar Jackson in years past. So I would go with Josh Allen as well. I also think the second component of this conversation is the Ravens make a Super Bowl, not win a Super Bowl. Because I do believe in Lamar Jackson's career. Baltimore will make a Super Bowl. Or at the very, very least, the flock will have more opportunities to be in an AFC championship game. I would say maybe 2 to 3 more, despite Lamar Jackson's playoff record during his tenure in the Charm City. He is just 2-4. And there are very real arguments to be made to poke holes into the postseason resume. Questions I'm sure Lamar understands and has to answer with his playoff performances. But overall, the Ravens have the second best price to win the AFC at plus 550. This year, Josh Allen has the second best price to win the NFL MVP award at 8-1. So theoretically, the number actually might be shorter on Baltimore than the individual in Josh Allen. I still think that Allen would be the favored part of this match bet and might get my money, although you could entice a plus money sprinkle on the Ravens.
Yeah, here's the tough part about Lamar Jackson is maybe last year the stars were aligned. That was their Super Bowl championship. They hammered San Francisco late in that season. They had home field advantage against a Kansas City team that was not as talented as the versions that we've seen in the past. Reminds me back of 20-some plus years ago where the Eagles had their Super Bowl taken away from them by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the last game at Veterans Stadium, then went on to hammer Oakland, which the Philadelphia Eagles would have hammered Oakland and had a Super Bowl championship. But yet again, decades later, they were able to pick up a victory. But I just look at that season last year. That was the Ravens season, and they let that one slip away, and shame on them.
That they certainly were. And it's not just getting through Kansas City. It's a lot of other really good teams in a competitive AFC. Hour 3 up next on the Early Line.